Welcome, my dear students. We will be looking at the methods of budgeting as I mentioned. But before we get into each of the budgeting approaches, just a gentle reminder here as far as and a clarity. Some important clarity is that with APM, you don't necessarily get to do the calculations because it's already been done for F5, if not for some of them in F9. But what will happen with APM is that you have to have a thorough understanding of how each of these budgeting systems work. You have to be able to utilize or rather pick and choose the most suitable or the perfectly fitting approach budgeting system depending on your scenario. So there could be a company in your exam that they've pitched for you as the scenario, and they are using a particular budgeting system like maybe activity based budgeting, but they're saying that it's not working. So they'll ask you what kind of budgeting system do you propose, and there'll be little hints. So you should be able to read between the lines. You should be able to pick those hints up and really propose exactly how you should or how you think they should be proceeding. So that's one of the most important things. Right at the offset, I'm telling you, it's in the study text as well. You don't get to do a lot of calculation content with respect to budgeting. It's really that deep understanding you need to have, and that is how we will be looking at budgeting methods as well. What you can see on the screen are the different types of budgeting that are in your syllabus. Fixed and flexible budgets, incremental, zero-based, rolling, and activity-based budgets. So we're going to be looking at each one of them. Now we're going to start with flexible budgeting. All right. So okay. So here we go. The definition is quite simple. A fixed budget is a budget prepared at a single level of activity, and a flexible budget is prepared at a number of activity levels and can be flexed or changed to the actual level of activity for budgetary control purposes. The cost behavior of all cost elements known and classified as either fixed or variable. Okay, so a few things. One, when it comes to fixed and flexible budgeting, you're looking at your costs as a combination of fixed and variable costs. So it could be fixed, it could be variable, it could be semi-variable. That is, you have a fixed component and a variable component within a particular cost line. So that's one, because flexing requires you to have that. You cannot really flex the way they propose flexing without having a combination of fixed, variable, and semi-variable costs. So that's point number one. Point number two, you have to understand is that a fixed budget is a straightforward budget. There's no, you don't need to knock your head up about it. It's quite simple, quite straightforward. You prepare a budget estimating that your activity level is going to be this number. So if you think that you're estimating, let's say you're going to be selling 30,000 units, so you prepare a budget, all cost items for that 30,000 units. That's your fixed budget. That's kind of what we also call the master budget. But flexible budgeting, where does flexible budgeting come in? So what will happen with flexible budgeting is you will try to, it's kind of like a scenario planning exercise. You will try to come up with various possible scenarios, and all those scenarios will lead to different possible outcomes of activity levels. So yes, you had a plan for 30,000, but you might have other plans. You think, if I have these issues, then it's 25,000. If I am able to spend on marketing or get these particular customers, maybe I'm going to sell 40,000. So you're going to come up with the most potential, because it's endless, right? You can come up with all kinds of scenarios, but it doesn't matter. What you need to do is you need to be able to cultivate a sense of what is most probable, what is most possible, analyze that and come up with a particular set of scenarios, and then for each of those scenarios come up with activity levels. And then, because you have the fixed and variable elements, and you understand the behavior of the fixed and variable nature of your master budget, what you do is you prepare different budgets for those different activity levels you came up with. And those activity levels, those budgets, we call them flexed budgets, right? You flexed the budget. Now, of course, these are all budgets. You never know what will happen at the end, right? At the end, when you actually implement your strategy, you go ahead with your business, you don't know year end what your actual activity level is. But even at that point, let's say you get to the year end and you have your actual activity level and you have your actual costs, fine. But because you have a combination of fixed and variable budgets or cost components, it's very easy for you to get a budget for the actual activity level also. You just have to flex your fixed and variable and semi-variable costs to those figures, the actual activity level. So once you have the actual expenses for the actual activity level, and then you have the flexed budget for the actual activity level, you compare it, you get your variances, and you do all your analysis. So that's pretty much what happens with flexible budgeting. It's important for you to understand the good things and the bad things, the advantages and disadvantages as provided here. So make sure that you go and take a read at or take a look at it. Couple of things, off the shelf is that it can be, I told you, right, a prerequisite for flexible budgeting is you have to understand the fixed and variable nature of your costs. But not all costs are that straightforward to break it down into those components. Not all costs behave in a very consistent manner for different activity levels, with things like bulk discounts, scope, economies of scale, etc., coming in. Your cost behavior can be a very changing one, very volatile one. Even global price changes, inflation, interest rates, all of those can affect. So this is not as straightforward as it sounds, but it's definitely something viable, and many companies utilize it. So I definitely would suggest you to take a look at the TYU2 and TYU3 if you are using the Kaplan book. And that is how flexible budgeting works. I'll see you in a different video. Thank you.